Okay, hello and welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to those of you that are calling in from wherever you are calling. My name is Maylee Brown and welcome to Working with Religion hosted by Intercultures. This is another of our webinar events hosted in a series of events that we're holding this year. And again, this particular session is called Working with Religion, and I have on the line as well one of our guest speakers for today. His name is Alex Elson. Excuse me. Alex is calling in from Berlin. Yes?
Rightly so.
That's right. How are things in Berlin today?
Oh, busy as always, as in every big city of the world. A lot of things to do and a lot of things to think about when you pass the city.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us today.
With pleasure.
Yes. So we'd like to do some introductions and hear first a little bit about our guest speaker. And so we have a snazzy picture here with a bow tie. Alex is a Chief Executive Officer in addition to being an intercultures consultant with us, and we're glad to have him. We are working with Alex at times in the capacity of his knowledge about Israel, and we are glad to do so. He has 27 years experience in nonprofit work specifically with conflict resolution and conflict prevention with people of different ages in Middle East conflict contexts. He's also a trainer and an educator in other ways. Your expertise, Alex, is in intercultural consulting, Middle Eastern and European history and politics. We'll hear a little bit about that in the course of our topic today. Of course, our topic spans more than one region or geography, but your particular experience where you have had it will be helpful for us to learn from today to apply that kind of knowledge.
Okay.
Yes. And I will also skip forward to my introduction. I'm also with Intercultures, Director of Global Network Communications, sitting in Chicago, the USA, and here it is dark. In Chicago, it's not quite 6 a.m., and I'm glad to be here with you as well. As you can see from the bio on the page, I've traveled myself as well quite extensively, and will share my experience as well from my point of view on religion and my point of view as a professional in the intercultural field that has traveled, that has had education in this area as well.
Right.
So we have others on the line, and I think for the sake of time, we will skip past that portion and maybe take some questions at the end or even via the chat box. So thank you for your patience with that. Managing expectations, we want to make sure that this is a webinar that you get what you need from, right? And so part of that is conversational exchange. Part of that is being encouraged and daring to voice your thoughts on different things. This webinar is being recorded for others to join as they like on their time after just now. So what does it mean to work with religion? And I'm going to ask Alex to give us any introductory thoughts that he has to share right now, in addition to sharing, what's your idea? What does this working with religion mean to you?
Mm-hmm. It's actually acting on two different levels. One, the collective one of a group, of a society in total, and most important, on a very individual layer of identity and personal thoughts and personal sensitivity. So it's asked from us always to think in two different systems, actually, in a collective one and in an individual one. So to work with religion is very demanding at the end, because we touch very sensitive points of an individual person in his daily life, and maybe also in his regard to connectivity to a broader social environment, to society in total. So
Right.
actually we do politics as well.
You do. So now aren't these topics that we just don't bring into the workplace?
Yeah.
What are you telling us to do? Where are you guiding us here? Religion and politics in the workplace? That I'm not sure that feels comfortable.
It's not comfortable, but especially in times of tension, social tension, it comes very fast to this point. You almost cannot avoid it. The webinary today is a very good time when, especially in Germany, you really invite at your workplace that when people speak about the refugees now coming, it starts mostly not only about politics, but really about religion. We speak about Muslims coming to Germany. So you very fast have the religion as an issue of discussion. And naturally, then it immediately really refers to politics. You have political discussions today in working places all over Germany.
Mm-hmm. And is it, let's see, we're in the year 2015 now. In 2016, is it 80,000 refugees that are expected in from Syria into Germany? Is this correct?
Yes, the numbers are even higher, and you speak not only about Syria, you speak about other countries as well. And so you speak about a whole bunch of variety of different religions actually at the moment fluxing into Germany.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we have influx in Germany and many other countries around the world of refugees. Is it fair to connect the influx of refugees with their religion and bias against religion? How do these things fit together?
Fairness, it's a very interesting term in this regard. I don't think that people regard fairness to be a parameter of their thinking and articulation. They much more refer to feelings, to how to arrange, and not really about what does this mean to the other. Fairness is an expression that refers to the second person or to the other person. How does something I do or say is received by the other one? They do not think about that. They first think about themselves and what do they themselves feel, what do they themselves think to be right. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's about fairness.
Great point. I agree with you. And I think that it would be about reality. So whether we're talking about refugees coming into one country in some year or someone that will connect to their realities that have to do with religion or the perception of religion and how it may or may not affect the workplace. Let's skip ahead and hear a few more thoughts here. So what else does it mean to work with religion, to dare to ask about others' practices related to religion? And we put here practices specifically and not necessarily beliefs. Of course, beliefs is a conversation that people may want to get into. Practices, though, is our point of view here because it has to do with the behaviors that come into and that may affect the workplace interactions, etc. Another idea here is to be aware of the role that religion or inherited traditions of religious origin, which is Alex's wording. Thank you for that. It's careful and it's precise wording. That these religious traditions or traditions based on religious origin play in our life and behavior, maybe unknowingly. Right? So for example, I'm in the United States and we have Christian references all around. Yes? The president ends his addresses with, and God bless the United States of America. We have on our U.S. dollar, in God we trust. We have all kinds of references. And I went to Catholic school. And so I've learned these things that can pick up on all kinds of references kind of embedded within our U.S. culture, our popular U.S. culture, that we may or may not be aware of, but that certainly do affect how we think about things and who we are in this context.
Yeah.
And the last point here, go ahead, Alex.
No, I manage onwards. I don't know when the right moment is for you that I really present my views on this. things.
Yes, yes. Well, we're getting to that. And the last point here is to identify your own beliefs, because I think a lot of us don't necessarily put ourselves in the picture when we are very much a part of the picture. We are part of, all of us, the diversity of play in our workplaces. All right, so let's hear some more thoughts from you, Alex, on the general perception of religion. So we're talking here about religion in the German workplace. You talked a little bit about some of the circumstances involving Germany in the next year with refugees in particular. And our audience, our really is in the workplace, maybe in a corporate workplace, in a national workplace. What has been your experience of religion or lack thereof in the German workplace and in society in general?
My impression is, and my knowledge is, that actually it's not a lack of religion or something that is not taking place at the workplace in regard of religion, but it's the lack of consciousness about it. What means you in Germany at the end is a Western Hemisphere modern country. What means like in other countries, we speak about a very secular society, and we speak about a system where actually religion and the state is separated by law. So people feel actually, especially on the workplace, where they are connected to completely different contents of doing, that no, they are not really religious in this way. They do not pronounce about this, but actually they act along guidelines that are stamped by religion. And now I come back to consciousness. They are not aware about it, because they do not deal with this question in their everyday life. Is something, a way of thinking, a way of feeling, and even a way of behaving, the outcome of religious cultural imprint. Yes, the outcome of something that was laid, maybe even centuries ago, by religious thoughts. They take it as something like, it is like this. It's something common. It's something that we are used to. And do not think about the sources.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Give us an example of something that we may not be very aware of, but that is very much a part of our day-to-day.
It's about how do I refer to life and death, for example. It has to do in science when we think about what is ethical research in stem cells or things like this. So a lot of people not really connected to religion, they have some hesitating thoughts about what is done there. And they think it to be a hesitation basing of human emotionality or thoughts, but actually it's coming deep from Christianity maybe. So how does the Christian religion define the start of life in opposition to other religions? So that's if you're in a working environment where you deal with medicine or with nature science research. It's really interesting to see how people deal with these questions on the work set. Yeah.
I'd say also we can, whether or not we're in the medical field, what about ethics within the organizations that we work? Global ethics reports on what principles or assumptions are they actually grounded.
It has to do with politeness, for example, and in Germany you can experience this in different regions of the nation. If you go down to the south, for example, to Bavaria, where the common saying is to say "Grüß Gott," what means "greet God," but it's the welcome. So many people say this, even if they're not religious. Or even if they think they are not connected to religion anymore, but it's a tradition. It's a usus. It's something, that's the way you do. And if you would not do it like this, you're not so polite. Naturally, you can say hi or hello or so, but you know, it's not the same way of politeness. And so people try to be polite, and by being polite, actually they make use of religion determination.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So let's move forward even further and talk about relationships with religion. And when we speak about relationships with religion, we're talking about the whole gamut, the whole range, whether people are closely identified with a particular religion or they're not associated with any religion at all. This, in fact, is still a relationship with religion. Yes, and so let's get personal with you. In terms of your description of your relationship with religion, what is this for you?
I must a little bit laugh because exactly yesterday at dinner I was sitting with very good friends of mine, and they did not know about the webinary today, and I didn't tell them a word, but by incident really our discussion came to the point of religion and our personal connectivity to our religion. Now, I'm Jewish, and but I'm calling myself a secular, not only a secular Jew, but a atheistic Jew. I do not believe in God. So,
so you identify as a secular Jew and an atheistic Jew as well, is that correct?
Look, as a secular Jew or as a secular personality, you still could in a way believe in God, but you do not practice your religion's traditions. You do not go to pray every day in maybe the church or the synagogue, it doesn't matter. You do not really regard in Jewish all kind of food and meal laws of religious orders, but you still in a way keep some kind of traditions and do not do some things, or you from time to time you act in a more religious traditional way. If I say atheistic, it means I do not believe in God. That's a major difference to a secular personality. So the personal discussion yesterday, it was very interesting because it really came around exactly this question of a personal relationship to religion as also a sign of being culture. Because, okay, so Jewish religion is not only religion, but it's some kind of history as well, and it's some kind of people you define. So with my Christian friends, the discussion went that they thought, because I'm a part of this tribal society called Jews, I will be never able to leave it. And I tried to tell them, yeah, but you never will be able to leave your Christianity either, because you got deeply, deeply stamped and imprinted by it. So they denied it and said, no problem. I can leave the church and then I'm out. And they told, yeah, but listen, it's not about structures. You just leave, like, opening a door, walking out, and that's it. But there are things you got by childhood, from your parents, from your family, and things that are given to you by your environment. So the discussion got very tough when I spoke, okay, I understand you say you're not Christians anymore, you're atheistic. That means you do not celebrate Christmas anymore? You do not take any Eastern holidays anymore? And so on and so on. So you can understand that my own relationship to my religion or religious heritage, let's call it like this, is to say, yes, I cannot deny it. It's a fact. I got educated and raised as a Jew, and I have within me some kind of behaviors and traditions, cultural traditions, that even if I call myself atheist, I'm aware, I bear them. And you know what? I even love them. I even love them because it's part of my identity.
Okay.
And I was quite astonished to discover with my Christian friends that they think that their religion, Christianity, had nothing to do anymore with their today's identity, because they call themselves often to be atheistic because they left the church. That's it.
Interesting.
That was the kind of discussion I had yesterday.
The complexity here is just great. I love it. I'm loving that we're getting into this. And I wanted to ask you a little bit later, well, if you're not practicing, right, then why do we even need to have this discussion? Right? If you're not practicing the religion that you may have been a part of at one time, then how does it factor in, right? So again, I'll put that question on pause. And there is another question that came in, about how is it that you were atheistic, but you've already addressed this one. Thank you for that. Let's move further, and I'll share as well. Thank you for sharing yourself that I identify as Baha'i. This is my religion. I am both practicing and do believe in God. Yes. What is the impact in the workplace? I take my high holy days off. As a matter of fact, in Haifa, Israel, this is where our holy land is for Baha'is. And the Baha'i faith, if those out there are not already aware, is a faith that believes in one God, one religion, one people, that we share all these things together, and they evolve over time. So, in the workplace, I've had a really positive experience. I've been given days off as I request them. One employer gave me an extra bonus day off to use a holy day as I wished when I declared at the job several years ago. And overall, it's been very positive for me, and really not so much a part of my workplace experience. But like you said, I must say that part of the ethic of what I do, part of the grounding assumption of this work of intercultural relations really does tie back to my religious beliefs. And I grew up Christian. I was baptized in the Christian church, in the Black church in particular, which is its own wonderful. And when I became Baha'i, these same principles of unity across diversity became even more true for me. So, like you mentioned before, there's this undercurrent of the thoughts that I'm having, the behaviors that I'm making in the workplace, the assumptions that I'm making that really do impact what I'm doing and why.
I would like to refer to the workplace dimension. It's also something I wanted to say even before earlier.
Yes.
We cannot avoid to have a religion at the workplace, because nowadays, today, in the Western Hemisphere, really at the workplace, people with various backgrounds meet within one team normally. Also in Germany, it's very, very common that you have Germans, Christian Germans, but you also have maybe the Muslims or the Jews or whatever. And now the question is always to what extent is this really given a space or not. Now you brought a very important point in it. You take your holidays off. Now the holidays are not the holidays of the general society.
They are not.
That means you are an exception.
I am.
Now, if you are within a team, and because of your religious background, you become an exception, that means the whole team has to refer to it. Why? If you have a team that is working in shift plans, and now if you have a holiday, you have to hold up your hand and say, but on Wednesday, I cannot take over any kind of shift because I'm on holiday. So everybody is looking at you and goes, what holiday? We don't have holiday. So you have to explain yourself. And that means...
I'm raising my hand now, actually. Shift plans, what do you mean by that, before you move on?
Sorry, maybe I do not use the correct expression in English. If you have a company that is working 24 hours a day, and you have a team of a number of people, they have to take care that every hour someone is always there. Yeah, so naturally they are working in shifts. And if you have a special need because of your religion to be in a certain shift not available, you have to pronounce it, and you have to give the reason why. because you're not ill. It's not because of your mother's 80th birthday. It's because you have a holiday. And then it's very fast. Also here in Germany, it becomes not only a question of religion in the team, but of minority-majority relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a team member as a Jew in a Christian German company, I do not only have a different religion, but I also am a minority. The majority is Christians, I'm the minority. So we have to think in these categories of teamwork, not only about the very specific religious questions, but also about the interrelationship between majority and minority groups and relations.
Well, what is that? What is the appropriate then? For example, I was driving in the last couple of months, and it was during the time of Ramadan, right? Which I was vaguely aware of. I don't practice Ramadan myself. This is a Muslim high holy period, yes, but I'm generally aware. I passed by a local auto shop, and in big letters, spray painted, it says Ramadan hours. Actually, this is in our newsletter, the last newsletter that we had for intercultures, and it told the Ramadan hours. And I went in actually because I was curious, and I asked the manager there, "What is, how do these Ramadan hours work?" And they worked much like you were talking about with these shifts. The shifts were changed to accommodate people that needed to leave work at a certain time before sunset, return to their families so that they can enjoy fellowship together and food and all of this. This, though, was an instance where everyone, or maybe the majority of that auto staff was Muslim, right? So in this case, I'll understand, and clients can accommodate. They're still open virtually 24 hours, yeah? But when it comes to majority-minority, what is appropriate in the workplace?
It has another sphere, because religion, that's really about feelings, about knowledge. What do I know about the other religion? Minority-majority interrelation has to do with fairness, as you said it before. It's to regard the needs of the minority. The majority is always responsible that the needs and the rights of a minority are respected and safeguarded.
Really?
In religion, not really. I mean, if I have someone in the team with a completely different religion, I can accept it. I don't have to accept it. It's his religion. It's his thing. What he's doing outside of workplace, his thing. Yeah? If he's eating something, yes or no, his thing. I don't have to safeguard it. This person has to safeguard it for him or herself. But if I'm a majority, I have the responsibility to take care about the minority. And if the majority-minority question is along the lines of religion, then it starts to get connected. Yeah?
Now, I just want to challenge this a little bit. Not that I disagree, but some may say, well, from what ethic is this imperative coming? The imperative of the majority needing to take care of the minority, right? That the majority needs to take care of the whole. From what ethic is that?
Most interestingly, I think from a diversity of different cultures, that we have it today in our humanistic thinking in the Western Hemisphere. We take as some kind of understood from the history of the last 200 years. We got to the conclusion that in regard to respect human rights and social rights, we have to take care about minorities living within us. So this responsibility is an outcome of political, social development of the Western Hemisphere. But now I could go long way back into ancient times, and let's even really point to the Quran with the Muslims. From the very beginning of the Quran, or from the Muslim development, on the one hand, it's a missionary religion that requires that the whole world actually should become along their beliefs, but, and that's the most interesting point in it, that within the Quran you find a reference to minorities, different minorities, where they are accepted as existing and that they have the right of existence. To exist and have to be in a way safeguarded. And the most interesting point and example you have from this is in Iran maybe today. Yes, where everybody is thinking about, yeah, that's a Muslim state, they're radicals, they're the Ayatollahs, and so on and so on. But the religious minority have their protection there. You have the Jewish community living there. You have even Jewish members of parliament, defined by the Iranian law that they have to be represented at the parliament as a minority group. So it's not only a Western Hemisphere political science thing that we safeguard minority rights. It's an ancient matter.
This is very true. Funny that you bring up human rights. Maybe case in point, maybe very cliche of me. I happen to have a copy of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights right here on my desk. And I was just looking at it for a moment, and it says things like everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. No one shall be subjected to torture, to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Things, and to relate it back to Iran as another example is interesting as well. I will note that although I have not visited Iran, I do know that from a Baha'i perspective, there are Baha'is persecuted from the beginning of the history in Iran, and still today very much so.
I thought about this naturally as well, and because yes, you're definitely right. The Baha'is are really not only oppressed, but really persecuted by the. Now, I call it now a problem. The background problem is that the Baha'i are thought by the Muslims as being traitors, of being originally part of the Muslim world, but having left the Muslim world and by this became traitors, and that's why they persecute them. The Jews got always respected as they have never been Muslim before, so they are something different. Yeah, that's why there is this distinction, and also the distinction in behavior of the Iranian government and laws. You're perfectly right. I would like to come back, but nevertheless to the workplace surrounding, because in regard of human rights, there is also the question of team and team building and teamwork. Let's say I have a Muslim or a Jew that has, or wants personally to regard his religious diet. And we get to workplace celebration, celebrating 10 years of the company, or having major success. The team is celebrating together. It doesn't matter. A party with the team on a workplace. Now you have this person that has this special requirements. He will not eat the German sausages because they are pork. Yeah, or he is Hindi, not eating meal at all. There are different ways and possibilities. The team, as a team, can deal with the quest now: what food shall be served? They can say, okay, this person has a special need. We will have our food prepared for the whole group, and this person will get something special. Or you can say, no, all the group will make a menu that everybody can eat. Yeah? Now, there already then is the question, what do you do as a team? and what is really right and best for the team to do. Do you make the religion, basing on religion, a special personality, also a special kind, as the team celebration? Or do you make the team as a team that is taking into respect and regard all of it?
Cool. And I just want to...
Inclusion or exclusion? That's the question.
There's another question here related to what you're saying. A question has come in about drinking, right? And what is the role of drinking alcohol or not in these contexts? I myself don't drink because of my religious beliefs. Yes, I've given this up. So tell us how this factors in. It's not just food, but it's alcoholic beverage, which is a social lubricant. Yes, if you will, and a professional lubricant in many countries I've visited. Japan on work, or Germany on work, or other places, and it's or China, and it's very commonly accepted that we're going to have a drink to build relationship, right? This is how we offer hospitality, and this is how we start the right way our business relationship. Well, what if I can't be a part of that because of my religion?
You know, at the end, we come back from this collective behavior, like is it useless to have a drink, yes or no, to the individual question. Because at the end, religion is really very, very, very individual. And even if someone, as me, is saying I'm a Jew, that does not mean that I'm regarding all the Jewish laws the same for Muslim or Baha'i or whatever it is. Now, as a good example of it, my partner is a Muslim. He is not drinking alcohol at home. No way, never. Yes.
Okay.
But at night, when we're going out, clubbing or I don't know what, then he wants to drink something. So, or I can give you the example of Jewish families. Yeah, that at home they're really much more restrictive in about what do they have in their fridge and what they are cooking, yes or no. But the moment they go outside into a restaurant, they even consume meals they would not prepare at their home in regard of religious law. You know, like mixing milk and meat.
Right.
So it's very individual.
It's very individual. Now, we've talked about taking care of the whole, yes, and maybe this might be the responsibility of a human resources professional, right? Maybe this is the responsibility of top leadership, right? Maybe this is the responsibility of a manager, right? A mid-level manager even, right? To take care of the whole. So we do have that ethic already running through our organizations. We talked also about, you know, how can we make changes in how we do things inclusive of everybody, right? There are very practical ways, very simple ways that we can do this. Let's talk about some of the other things. You've just mentioned your partner and how he is not drinking and how he is Muslim, and you have this very particular Jewish background. I'm wondering, how is it that your relationship with religion, right, connects to other points of your identity, and how that relates to your person in the workplace and your professional value even in the workplace?
Yeah. I must say, I mean, I'm really speaking for myself in this regard as an example. Yeah? Yes, because why as an example? Okay, maybe because it's a good example. Yeah, but I think I bring it forward as it is. Born into a minority religion worldwide as a Jew. In a surrounding that is different. I'm born in Switzerland. I went to public schools, what means I was the only Jew in the Christian class and in the Christian surrounding. But coming from not really religious family, but a traditional family. Celebrating Jewish holidays, not having pork at home, and then. So Naturally, my identity got very much imprinted by these two experiences: family life, family tradition, and the public environment I have to deal with as being always different. So I think my consciousness and the awareness about what I already brought up earlier in this webinar about minority-majority relation is in a way based on my personal identity as having grown up as a minority member. Yes, and that I a lot of times had as a minority representative to explain and sometimes to defend things that have been related to my minority group. Yeah? Let's say like you Jews, you do or you think or you, and I had to react in representing the Jews. Yeah? Now, normally it does not work like this for a majority member. No one would come to the Christian majority in Germany and ask them to defend the way they act or do because they are Christians. Yes, the majority is not asked to represent themselves. The minority, yes, but that forms personal identity. Because you get used to be the spokesman or the spokesperson for something you're born with, and it becomes part of your identity, I think, very strongly. And you really are then asked to know quite good about your own religion because you're always by the majority asked to explain your religion. And that's forming identity. What means and that's why I take myself as an example. I know quite many things about Jewish religion and culture, much more than, let's say, an average Christian person here in Germany knows about Christian religion and tradition. It's very funny that I, as a Jew, have sometimes much better knowledge about Christian religion and Christian tradition because I dealt with it. I had to deal with it. Yeah.
You know, I think this is one of this sensitivity, if you will, that you're speaking about. This, even though you're from one background, from a minority background in some of the contexts that you've been, you know a lot about this majority background, right? And so this is the experience of a lot of minorities in any way, whether it's that they are women in a male-dominated workplace, or whether they are black in a white-dominated workplace, or whether it is ability or any of these other points of identity that people may or may not take on. There is, I think, not only the sensitivity, right, to these differences, right, but I think that especially on the part of people who have been a minority in some way, whether it's seen or unseen, there can be also a great, what is the word, contribution, right, that people who have experienced themselves a minority can have to a workplace, such that they can speak up when someone is being othered or excluded or ostracized in some way, right? To be sensitive to matters such that we can be more inclusive. I think this is one of the gifts that those who have been minorities can give, and of course those who have not been minorities as well. For instance, I'm not Muslim, yes, and there are some words earlier that you mentioned about the state of really politics and intermingled with religion in Iran. Yes, I could sit silent and say, you know, nothing about the comment about Muslims, and I know your intention was that your comment in this intention was to talk about the specific situation in Iran, right? It's not Muslims that are people who are having an issue with Baha'is. It is really the political context in Iran that is at play here, right? So I can make that distinction as someone that is sensitive, yeah, that hears that and wants to seek clarity in a conversation, or I could not do that. I don't represent that identity after all. So I think that one of the bounties that people, especially who have experienced themselves as a minority, and I think that many of us have in some way, is to be able to not only identify when someone is being othered or excluded in some way, when the language kind of turns in a way that creates a bias against someone else or some other group, but to speak up about it, to voice it, as we say in intercultures, to make mention of it, right? To bring ourselves into more awareness about the language that we're using and how that really communicates our thoughts and assumptions about how we work, who we work with, who's the better employee, right? Who's the best team to work with, who's more competent, and all of that in the workplace. It all ties together.
Yeah, on an extreme, really extreme way. And I really refer also back that things has to do with personal identity because it was given really by family tradition a lot of times. In Germany, you have quite many things related in food, in particular food items, actually to religion. There is a special kind of Christmas cake, a Stollen, a Dresdner Stollen. Now, it's a Dresdner Stollen. It doesn't matter. I just say it because I know that we have German guests or European guests. They know then to what I refer especially. But let's call it a Christmas cake. Now, people are really loving it. Most of the people really loving it, and they want to have it. They want to eat it. I know people coming from this place, from Dresden, where they have family recipes going already from the grandmothers to the children and so on. And it has to be this way done, otherwise it's not right. But they themselves call themselves non-religious, atheistic, and no, I would not call myself a Christian. But sorry, my dear, this Christmas cake is coming from a deep Christian religion because it refers actually to the first pampers of Jesus Christ. To the newly born naked child that must get something wrapped around his body. So it's wrapped. Sorry?
Did you say Pampers?
Yes, I said Pampers because that's at the end it is.
Around back with.
Yes. So you understand how tradition, a local tradition that is deeply connected to a religious origin, is taken by a lot of people to be something suddenly very disconnected from religion. And that's why I'm returning now back to the discussion I had with my friends yesterday evening, where I said it's about consciousness and awareness. That many people are not conscious anymore, and because of that not really aware about many things in their daily life they do, act, take as granted, love to have. That these things are connected to their religion.
Of course. Part of the social fabric in some places. And so the benefits, we're on benefits and consequences now. The benefit is that we're part of the spirit in the workplace. When there's a holiday, let's say it's Christmas, we're part of the spirit that enjoys that brings us together as a workplace. We expect it maybe, along our Christmas bonus maybe as well, right? To be a part of, and how can we, and it's great for those of us that share that tradition and can really bond together in the workplace because of that, or talk about our plans for the holidays, right? Because of course we want those days off. We are Christian, to make that Christmas cake, to spend it with our family. We're going to have a problem with our employer if they're not giving us that day off, perhaps, right? But what are the consequences as well, right? What are the consequences of, here the question is, what are the benefits and consequences of categorizing religion as a personal point of identity and something separate from the workplace, right? We see how it's integrated here, really de facto, right? The way things actually are, but in terms of that, explicit mention of, or leadership addressing or not addressing, what are the consequences? What are the benefits of actually saying that these things are hand in hand?
I think the consequences are that in the new economy we do have, you will have a problem in getting disconnected from network flows. Why? In former, not so long past years, networking was top to down. The management, the senior management of a company made the networking with other senior managers of other companies or surroundings, and then out of these connections, top to down in their company, in their workplaces, they gave down the we cooperate with, we do this and this with. And it became a really only singular working thing. And when people communicated, normally they communicated by, letters, later fax, but it was without pictures, it was without knowing how does the other one look like, no, nothing. Right. Nowadays, 2015, when two companies or two infrastructures cooperate and meet, the people meet like we now, for example, in a web conference, where you not only hear their voices, but you see also their faces, their color of skin, their whatever, and suddenly networking became not anymore a question only from top to down, but even maybe sometimes from bottom up. Why? Because now the connectivity is between the really employees. The teams are not only a workplace team within the company, but it's a teamwork within the individual members of the team of the other framework of the other company. Now, why does this connect to the consequences? We all know that if we are working within a team, our personal identity has a lot to do with how well we interact, communicate, and are active in our workplace, and at the end, how important the recognition, the mutual recognition of personal identity is in order to reach, to be successful. And if I now turn out and say, yeah, but that's not anymore right within my own company where I know the people every day very well because I enter the door and I say good morning to everybody and then I'm like in a kind of family during the next 8-9 hours. Now I'm within this family in people that are sitting thousands of kilometers away. And I'm sharing with them via Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp groups, things connected to work, not already only to private life. I mail with them, I make web conferences, video conferences. Also there, more and more, we have the quest of having our personal identity brought into these groups, because only on this basis of getting to know each other, the mutual trust will be built. And say, yes, I know this person very well, and because I know this person very well, I know a lot about her, him. I trust these other people, and this trust is needed for the working place networking to be successful for the goals to be reached.
Very, very true. I thank you for those points, Alex. That's really important, especially in this world, as you mentioned, where we're working really on attraction, right? We're networking. We're working not necessarily in bureaucracies all the time, but we're working to attract, right, the influence of other people, right?
For example, I just to add this small example, nowadays when you do not react within minutes on a mail, on a WhatsApp message or something like this, people get affected and say, what happened? Why does he not answer? But if people know that tomorrow, for example, when there is highest Jewish holiday, he's not answering today because he has a holiday,
Right.
then they then take it different, and they take it with acceptance and understanding. So actually, yes, you have to make your coming out, your religious coming out, in a much broader context than it was used to be done 20 years ago.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was just speaking with someone last week, I think it was, trying to recruit someone new to our global consultant pool from Israel. And she said, yes, I may not be available in the next week as we continue these discussions by email because of Rosh Hashanah. Yes. Yes, Rosh Hashanah. Excuse me for not remembering. And so I have to work into my project plan, right, to make sure I get my consultants in place for a particular project before we are going to do that project, right? And this is actually someone outside of Berlin. Of course, we're working with you in Berlin, and this person is in Israel, and we're wondering, how can we get more people that are in that country as well? And I completely forgot. I need to work around the holidays in the country, of course, because the whole infrastructure is based around that. We often forget this when we're doing projects.
But if you speak about the country, about someone being in a special country, maybe now Israel, or it could be also a Muslim country with the Muslim holidays, then you maybe are more aware because there is the majority. Yeah, it's like, for example, I'm not trying to reach in the USA anyone on Independence Day. Makes no sense. Yes, and I know it's Independence Day.
On what day is that?
Independence.
Independence Day. You know what? That's funny that you. I think for U.S. Americans and maybe for some others as well, we are so patriotic. It's religious in some ways.
So anyway, that's what I meant. But it starts to get complicated. Let's say if I have a Jew living in Germany. Now, in Germany, there is no public holiday tomorrow. Yeah. So why should someone communicate to Germany, not receive an answer tomorrow, Wednesday? He can only get the understanding if he knows that this specific German there, yes, he's not Christian, but he has to be told. Yeah, someone has to tell him, no, he's a Jew. Yeah. So you see the outcomes, the consequences of modern business and working communication is that religion has really to be declared on a very individual level in order to have things understood, and this leads directly to the business benefit. Yeah. Because if people have to be more individually defined in their business card shown to the outside world, it adds to the diversity of the profile of each and every company or institution. And that's a very positive aspect that will be very positively regarded in the surrounding, in the other world. And I can explain it by my own clients. For them, I have clients not only in Israel, but also in the States or in Canada or things like this. And when they understand, for example, suddenly, they worked already with us, but suddenly at a certain point they understand, you're Jewish, that's great, I'm Jewish too. Yeah. And we didn't know before that. Yeah? Right. So it's really a benefit for business because then immediately you have some kind of mutual trust that was not existing beforehand.
I'd say another business benefit is just generally a culture of inclusion, right? Yeah. I was recently consulting with an organization that is a large global services firm, yeah? And they're exploring the idea of having a program on our topic, actually working with religion, right? It gave me more credibility, yes, to be identified with a particular religion and to be active in that religious community or that faith community, as one might call it, in my own community. But further than that, what I really thought was the case here is not as much the religion. It's not as much when we were getting into it. It wasn't as much about, is this an appropriate topic or how do we breach the topic or anything like that. I really saw it as an issue of organizational culture. Can the organizational culture absorb this discussion? Are we at the point in our growth as an organization, as a learning organization, as an inclusive organization, we can have these conversations? And I thought more about that than the religion itself or any other point of anyone's identity. That's a benefit to our business. If we
You're completely right, and we all know that how much companies are investing in team building. Mm-hmm. Now, even if you have a 100% Christian group of employees, you still speak about the quest of team building. Why? Because there is an awareness that everybody has an individual background, and then it is an individual personality, but at the end, they all together have to work on a joint level of mutual trust. And now sometimes it's very difficult for someone to express about his really personal things. Let's say for someone in a special working environment, sometimes it's very difficult to step out and say, yes, I'm gay. But most interesting is that to say I'm of this and this religion, that's in the most cases more simple. So actually, because religion is a so individual quest and so something differing from every one of the team members' personality, that it may be even easier to take this religion question as a factor of better team building than any other kind of issue. Why? Because everyone has something to say to in regard of religion. Everyone. You can be the most radical atheist, and you still have to say something about religion. Yeah?
Right. You still have to. We're coming up at the end of our time, and thank you for the questions that have come in over the course of our talking together with Alex. Thank you again, Alex, for sharing so much of yourself personally and professionally to this conversation. Wonderful.
Thank you very much for having been invited to do so. Yes.
We have one last question before we go, and that question is about where do we start in this process? So the question is, these ideas are great. I understand the power of inclusion and how that really has reverberating effect, right? So a rippling effect throughout the organization in terms of an inclusiveness, but where do we start?
Where do we start?
If you knew the right answer, I heard this yesterday. If you knew the right answer, what would it be?
We have to start where it always should be done. That means in trying to recognize the other's personality. That means to be open-minded, open-hearted, to look at someone on a zero level, without, as much as possible, without pre-existing in stereotyped views. I give also here the hardcore example. If you are a decision taker in personal recruitment, if you get an application by an obviously Muslim person, because it has his private name is definitely Muslim, like Muhammad or something similar. Don't have immediately in your mind the image of religious Islamistic personality as it's given today by the situation in the views of many people. try to invite him or to judge him according to his application. What did he do? What is his experience? What is his education? What kind of job is he applying for? And do not hesitate more than you would in regard of another personality to invite him for a talk, to see him, to get to know him. Unfortunately, we know here in Germany that people with a foreign name that hints to a certain religious affinity will automatically get negative answers by personal recruitment offices. And that's a stereotypic way of looking at it, and that's why I say we have to begin in getting neutralized. We have to begin in really doing away with stereotypic thinking. Only because someone is a Muslim does not mean he is a radical Islamistic Muslim. And not because someone is a Jew, that does not mean he's obvious, look at me. I do not have a hat, I do not have my traditional haircuts or something like this. But we have to start with by trying to keep it on a very individual, very personal level of relationship to build up with people.
Yeah. And I would add that if we can practice seeing identity and managing identity in this way, in this difficult, uncomfortable way sometimes, then we can do it in many other areas of the workplace. Right? It will be a challenge for people, of course, but to take a personal ownership of it, right? To have the courage and to dare to ask, to speak about these things as they're relevant to our workplace practices and our beliefs, our understandings of one another, our networks that attract us to each other, is going to be of benefit in other areas of that organization when it comes to connection, when it comes to team, when it comes to resonance, when it comes to engagement. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So before we conclude, we encourage you to partner with Intercultures, to partner with Alex as we move forward in these ideas, the practice of sports. And we have a few other webinars in our series. Alex, I think you will be with your team at our next webinar on the 6th. On the 6th of October at 12:30 Central European Time. It goes for 5 minutes to an hour or so, depending on what the audience wants to do. So in October, we have German India, Virtual Business Savvy. And in November, on the 10th of November, also a Tuesday, we have Leading Intercultural Change from the Top Down. You can either click on this hyper email address, brown@intercultures.de to sign up. You can write it in the chat box, or you can just email us if you're not joining this webinar in the moment. Email brown@intercultures.de to sign up for our October or November webinars, or both. They're all free of charge, and we look forward to partnering with you in your practice in terms of identifying that diversity, leveraging that diversity, working with it so that we can work inclusively and better together globally. Thank you so much again to our guest speaker. Any final words to us?
Yes, I hope for all of us that we do not take religion really apart from identity, and we have to regard, if we deal with our surroundings, with other team members, and so on, always to take into account that his identity most probably is very much influenced by the religious origin he is coming from, and we should never disregard that. Also, our own origin from ourselves, that makes a lot of difference.
Wonderful. Mr. Alex G. Elson, thank you very much for being with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. G is for Gabriel, by the way.
Ah. All right, wonderful. Have a wonderful rest of your day. It is now bright in Chicago. And until we meet again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
right.
having me invited.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.